Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Gentlemen, good afternoon. We are talking about the upcoming documentary, The Eagle Has Landed, in preparation for the 50th anniversary of Space 1999. And you just hear the Blue Angels in the background because they're all over Huntington Beach right now for the air show this weekend. I am here with the director and producer, Jeffrey Morris, and one of the stars of the series, Nick Tate. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. 50 years coming up on celebrating a show that took place 25 years into the future from when you initially started recording. And now we are 25 years past 1999, or just about.
Just about, yeah.
You know, what's it like to revisit the series about the future that now that time period is in the past?
You better say who you're asking the question of.
Both of you, gentlemen.
Nick,
Jeffrey,
you want me to take it? Okay.
Yeah.
I would say the thing, it's sort of bittersweet, right? Because in a lot of ways, here we are almost 50 years later. And not only is the fan interest and the love of that series still alive and well, and actually, I think it's more powerful than ever, but also the love of that spacecraft, the Eagle, I think has been, it's a huge part of pop culture. You start finding out about all the people around the world who collect them and build them and do art and create art of it. And the reason why I wanted to do a documentary was because I really believe that it's connected to the past, right? The fact that we all had this dream of the future that hasn't really happened yet. And it's actually a perfect time to do this because not only is it the 50th anniversary of Space 1999, but also we got the Artemis program and you got SpaceX, and we're actually looking at going back to the moon right now. So in the next few years, we'll be back there and be back there to stay this time. So I think it's a perfect time to tell this story.
Yeah. Nick, you were a part of this. I'm sorry, please, Nick, go ahead.
No, you can be specific.
I was going to ask, you were a part of the series. You played the character of Alan. You know, in the 70s, there was this hope for the future. You know, it is a dystopian timepiece that still has hope, you know, after the destruction of waste spilling on the moon. But there's still genuine hope in the series. What did you guys hope for in the 70s that the coming millennium would look like? And what has been the greatest disappointment of that hope from that time period?
Well, of course, the dream that we would be functioning on the moon some 24 years or 25 years, as you said, after the making of the series was that really seemed futuristic. You know, 1999, when we actually started filming in 1973. And then we finished in March of 1975, and it went to air in various areas within weeks of us finishing. In fact, I think the first 2 episodes had just screened in the 2 weeks that we were finishing shooting Space 1999. So we had no concept of what we were going to think about it. We just knew that we loved doing it. And the fact that it was more science fiction than it was science fiction in terms of the constructions of the stories, we really believed that we would all be on the moon. I, like so many other people, see, I'm 81. So I actually stood in my backyard and watched, I couldn't see it, but I did go out and look at the moon. I couldn't see them landing on the moon, but I raced back inside and looking at the television, and there are these guys walking on the moon, you know, extraordinary. So I was thrilled when I went to England, and I was asked to go down and audition for Space 1999, which back in 1973 seemed like, it was like saying to you now, we're going to make a television series in 2051. You know, that's a long way away from now, and 24 years away. So no, it's more than that. But anyway, my math crazy. That kind of feeling, you know, where will we be in another 25 years from now? staggering. And so, yes, we really thought we would all be on the moon in 1999, and we're not. But as Jeffrey says, we're so close now. I mean, I'm a great fan of Elon Musk and the space program, SpaceX, and everything else. It's a very exciting time because it is an absolute reality. He has landed. He wants to go to Mars. He's definitely going to the moon, and he brings these rockets back and lands them here. Nobody else has ever been able to do that. It's such a thrilling time. And I even call I got a Tesla. I bought a Tesla 8 years ago, and I've always called it the Eagle because that saying, the Eagle has landed, because that's what they named that first. What would you call that? The module that landed on the moon?
Lunar module, the lunar module. Yeah, the LEM,
yeah.
Lunar module. Yeah.
The Eagle. And so this is so interesting and so timely for Jeffrey to be wanting to do this. And thank you for doing it, Jeffrey, because it's very exciting for me, and it's whole kind of brought a whole new life and energy around things. I've been to 2 science fiction conventions this year, and both of them had masses of model makers there, and they had these competitions going on with who'd done the biggest and who'd done the best eagle. And it is staggering how accurate they are and how fabulously designed and beautifully constructed these model makers. You've got them behind you there, Jeffrey. They're yours, aren't they?
Yeah.
You've been collecting them. Yeah, I've got one in my office. I don't have it here, but I do have some memorabilia of Space 1999 there. Here's the Eagle pilot that was made for me. Alan Carter. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's
Actually,
awesome.
It does look like me. Yeah. Yeah, it's a thrilling time. And we're going to be doing some filming in England, aren't we? And you're coming here as well to LA too.
Yeah, there's a lot planned for this project, so we're really excited about it. Yeah.
Jeffrey, what was the catalyst to get you, not only obviously your love for the property of Space 1999 and the Eagle itself, but what was the catalyst that said, all right, I'm going to make this documentary, realizing that not only is it the 50th anniversary, but you're doing it on your own with crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, that the fans are behind it and it's not some big studio project and nobody has their finger in your face saying, no, you have to eliminate this. No, you have to put this in there, create some artificial robot dog that we're just going to stick somewhere because, the producer's kid wanted it or whatever.
Right. Well, I think that the interesting part with this is that, I did pitch it around Hollywood a little bit, and we had some interest, but what they wanted to do was diminish the actual story of the Eagle to almost nothing. They didn't want any of the fan story in there at all. And then it became this big sort of celebrity love fest of, I don't know, space or something. But it wasn't what I wanted to make. And I knew through meeting with so many fans around the world and being connected to the fan community and the Eagle community that there's actually a real interest around this, and there was a real possibility to tell a story. And I guess the thing is, it stemmed from, I've been a fan of this. I first watched that show. I was actually a small child. I was 7 when I first saw that, but I got it and I really got into it. And I actually happened to come from a big interest in NASA and everything in the space program. So because I was interested in that, when I saw Space 1999, it felt like an extension of the future I was going to grow up to be part of. And I think what happened is, over the years, the Eagle epitomized that future. And I know I collected them. And I didn't really think much of it other than I like this ship. I think it's really cool. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a designer. And I always thought this was an excellent design. I'm a big fan of Brian Johnson, the visual effects artist, created it. But then I kept running into so many people who collected them and built them and were talking about them and all this. And I'm like, what is going on with this? And it just hit me one day. It's like, I think I understand why we all love this so much, because I think it connects to this time and this lost future. And I was like, we have to explore that. We have to talk about this, because I also feel like it's something that kids nowadays don't have to, as Nick pointed out, to be able to go outside and look up at the moon and there, that was unprecedented. Right. And we don't have that same kind of energy, that same kind of, that the drive, right? And I really want to talk about that. And I want to talk. It was a unique time in human history, and I think that this documentary allows us to explore that and everything. So.
One of the big draws of the show was, yes, we screwed up. Yes, there's this horrible waste spill on the moon. How do we fix it? And how do we get back to creating a society that's worth living in? And it seems, there was that hope of, how do we fix this? And in recent science fiction, especially in the last decade and a half, everything's just been dystopian and almost droopy dog, woe's always me, and we've lost that hope. And I think with you doing this documentary, not just about the eagle, but with Nick especially, that where the pendulum is swinging back into hope for the future.
I'm going to lay out that I think the dystopian sort of negative view of the future goes all the way back to the 80s. You start looking at Terminator and Mad Max, and those are good movies. Nothing against them. It's just that it's like the hope was lost. And I think that the fact that we came off this trajectory of losing the hope in the 70s, it began to manifest more and more and more. And you're absolutely right. When you look at most views of the future now, they're very, very dystopic and negative. And I think we've lost something. We need to rekindle the hope. We got to get the future going again. And that is a huge part of what this documentary is all about.
Because even Star Trek recently, in their most recent iterations, have lost hope. And that whole series was about hope.
Yeah, very dark now. Yeah, it's not even, doesn't even feel like Star Trek to me. It's so dark. Yeah.
Nick,
I guess
go ahead.
The business of writing fantasy stories about our future, this is where they want to put the drama in, and so make us think that we're living on we are actually living on a knife's edge, to be perfectly honest. But we shouldn't be thinking like that. We should be thinking about how we can save the planet. And I wonder what a movie would look like that did that. Sweetness and Roses. People want drama, and unfortunately, horror movies are all too prolific, and writing stories about how we're all going to burn ourselves to death with nuclear holocausts and so on. Terrible. So this is wonderful to try and, I applaud what Musk is doing for two reasons. Not only is he reaching for the stars, but he's also trying to purify this planet with the electric vehicles and so on, and we've got to, my daughter, I think about my daughter. She's pregnant now, having a baby. What future has my grandkid got? We have to believe that they're going to see all the wonderful things that we've seen and lived with, the beautiful creatures that we've lived with, the bees and the monarch butterflies. We're growing milkweed outside here, and people say, with them and the bees all dying, well, where's our future? We've got to think positively and do something about it.
Would you like to see a sequel series to Space 1999 at some point, and continue on the tradition that you and Martin Landau started in 1975 when it first began airing, even though you filmed it in 77? And with you, let's say, Nick gets to be a part of it, what would you like the series to look like?
73. Yes, I've always wanted that. Anybody that loved Space 1999 has wanted there to be some form of continuation. Whether it be the children of an actor, because my son was an actor for a while, and Tony Ann Holtzboy is an actor, and it'd be good to have them all come back and recreate the series as the next generation. It's not going to happen like that with my boy. He doesn't want to be an actor anymore. But just the fact but I always dreamed that might happen. That, I could come back like a Professor Bergman in the series, the old guy in the show, and have a lot of the children of the people because if people love Space 1999, what did happen to them and their children? Because it is definitely time to make that recreation. I just don't know, because it's a show about survival, and it's not about fanciful monsters, although one of the most exciting episodes was Dragon's Domain, and why wouldn't it be? I mean, you got to have people from time to time with huge dilemmas going on. But let's talk more about the documentary, because that's something that Jeffrey is doing right now, and it's very exciting.
And
another
one
question.
thing I can jump in with is, you can see already in some of the footage we've created for the documentary and the pitching, we've done new visual effects, and we've been able to use today's technology to recreate the effects from the night. From very, very exciting. I think people seem to very much like what we've developed. We have a plan for this documentary actually to recreate some of the sets. You can see some of that, So I think that if there is going to be a case made for, could there be more Space 1999? I don't know. Continuations are very, very difficult in this, economically. You have to have an audience for it. It's always a challenge. But I mean, the idea that maybe it could happen in the form of some sort of a reboot of some sort, or it's something that I've actually explored with ITV a couple of times, and we're still thinking about it. I think it's something that could definitely, if we could get it off the ground, it's something would absolutely have to involve Nick in it, in some capacity. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think right now I'm with Nick. It's like, let's get this documentary done, and I think the documentary shows many things. It'll show the love of Space 1999 that's actually out there in the world. There's so many people that actually do love and adore these series and those characters and the technology and the design, the aesthetic, and specifically the Eagle. I think that's a great opportunity for us with this documentary. And I also think it could show the powers that be that it may be worth investing in more Space 1999 content. Which is always the challenge with Hollywood, Yeah.
And now the Kickstarter is going from now through October 12th, Thursday, October 12th. The response seems to have been great. A couple of people have won model kits so far in their donations. What has the reaction been? Because, you're allowed to leave comments when you donate. And like, what have some of the positive comments been when people
well first off, we have like 60, 70 comments. And I will say, just like in social media, when we posted about this project, it's overwhelmingly positive and supportive of what we're doing. The thing is that we're over 20% funded. We still have halfway to go. The issue is this: they're Kickstarters that fund in minutes. It's just a question of getting the fandom fired up and excited. I think a lot of people were kind of cautious and trying to see what we're doing. And they're coming in later. They're getting in, as we go. The part that I'm really excited about is that at the level where we are, only 0.67% of Kickstarters, or we were talking about like 80,000+ projects, only less than 1% have gotten as much as we have. So that tells you that there's interest in what we've got. It tells you that there's interest in what we're trying to do. So what we want to do in the next 2 weeks is get people fired up, get them out there. If all of Space 1999 fandom, there are thousands of us. If everybody just even gave $20, we get this done fast. We get it done quickly. So we're still, and we have some great rewards on there. We're planning to do a coffee table book. We've got some, Eagle models, prints, all kinds of cool things as rewards. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make a great film. That's what we're trying to do. We want people's support in making that film. So,
are we eventually going to get a Wienermobile-sized version of the Eagle that's going to be driving up and down the freeway?
Well, there's a guy who's made a bicycle of the Eagle. You can actually see some photos online of Nick on that bicycle. But there's also one of the things we're going to explore in this documentary is a gentleman his name is Jan, who lives in Denmark, and he's actually built a quarter-scale Eagle in his backyard, and it's amazing. The details are perfect. It's unbelievable, and he's still working. He's been working on it for 5 years, but it's a huge 25-foot long Eagle, and we're going to travel all the way to Denmark to interview him and try to find out like how it happened and why he did it and why his wife is letting him pull this off.
That's love.
That's the one I want to know. It's like, I want to interview his wife, like wow, that's supporting your husband's hobby. Wow. So yeah.
Nick, you mentioned that you've been to a couple of sci-fi conventions and you've seen the love for the series and how people have received you at them. How difficult was it for Jeffrey to twist your arm in to be a part of this documentary, or were you on board when he pitched you the idea from the get-go?
What's the saying out of he had me at hello. For years, people have said they wanted to get something going around Space 1999. And I think it's such a clever idea to come out from the Eagle's point of view, the technical side of what a very perfect piece of spacecraft that was. You know, we've always, because we live with an atmosphere here, the only way we can get through things is that pointed instruments. You could be a block of rock, as they are with asteroids, and be traveling at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. There's no friction up there, so the Eagle doesn't have to look, and it would be wrong to have it pointed and looking like a jet aircraft, like a Concorde. It is wonderful the way it is. I know that Elon Musk himself was a big fan of the series when he was young. People saw him at early conventions.
You know, Nick, we've got to get him for this. Nick, we've got to figure out how to get him into this documentary, you know, get Elon in, because I heard he's even talking about building a Moonbase Alpha when he goes up there, you know, when he gets going. So we should talk
I
to
actually
him.
went to my son is friendly with a man that works with Elon. And I went over to their house on the weekend, 2 weekends ago, and he showed me a picture of himself at a big function at the soccer match with Messi, and he said, "I'm at the match here." I said, "Oh yeah," and he said, "Look who's sitting next to me." I said, "Who's that?" Well, the guy was really he wasn't looking at the camera. My friend was looking at the camera. So then I looked at the side profile. It was Elon Musk. And I said, "You were sitting next to Elon Musk?" He said, "I invited him." I said, "Oh, okay. So, wow. I'd like to meet Elon Musk. Tell him that I drive an Eagle." I've driven an Eagle for the last 8 years. So I'm waiting to hear back. I don't think my phone's going to be running hot with that. But there's a concept there. Yes.
Yeah, we should. We'll talk. We'll talk. Yeah,
he does own a social media platform where he's readily involved while he responds to people. So that could be a good way to try to get at him. Yeah. You can get eyes on his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not been my forte, but I am capable of perhaps making an introduction.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, hopefully that works out. Maybe this is breaking news that you're pitching Elon Musk to be a part of the documentary.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, we already have so many great people in the documentary. You know, we've got Nick, and Barbara Bain is going to be part of it. You know, astronaut Charles Duke, who was in Apollo 16, is going to be in it. Visual effects supervisor Bill George, who, you know, he's done tons of movies, and he huge Eagle fan and everything. We're hoping to go with him to Industrial Light and Magic for a quick tour as part of this. Brian Johnson, obviously the creator of the Eagle, is going to be part of it. I mean, this is a great cast of people we've got pulled together for this thing. So, yeah.
Is there going to be a section where you're going to discuss the science fiction that has become science fact, or the science fact that was used in the aspects of science fiction to create the show, and especially regarding the Eagle?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a key section of it. There's a gentleman that I work with who's a technical advisor in Hollywood, but he's worked formerly with Northrop Grumman and NASA and that sort of thing. So he and I are actually going to, in one sequence of the film, break down the science of the Eagle and how it works. And we're going to go to a company called Dynetics that is building a lander called the Alpaca that looks kind of like an Eagle. You know, it's a real lunar lander that they're in negotiations with NASA for its use. So we want to actually go and take a look at a real Eagle in a way. So we are definitely going to get into the science of the Eagle and the technology and how it would work. And then how would you really, you know, it's exactly like Nick was talking about. You don't have to have the same you don't have to have aerodynamics in space. And that's how you ended up with an ungainly ship like the lunar module with all those girders and blocky shapes. And it always felt like, to me, like the Eagle was like the grandchild of the limb, in a lot of ways, because it had some similarities to it. So we're going to definitely get into the science of that.
That's real interesting, because the way, just not a direct tie-in, but how the Ford Futura eventually became the Batmobile in 1966.
Yeah.
Now the Eagle that was science fiction has inspired science fact, and you're going to go see a module that is based on the design of the science fiction TV series.
No question. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, absolutely. There's always been a synergy between science fiction and true science fiction, right? Not fantasy, but true science fiction and technology, and the science, technology, engineering, math vocations, right? So many people watch these old TV shows and were inspired to become engineers and scientists and doctors and things like that. There's definitely, and then they bring what they saw in those TV shows into, they try to create reality, right? They say, I saw that in that show. It's like fiction drives reality. It's really interesting. So, yeah.
And now, Nick, what's it like, to use the turn of the other phrase, bringing the band back together again with you and Barbara, and then, speaking with Brian again, and having everyone come together and being a part of the documentary The Eagle Has Landed?
Well, we haven't all got together yet. I haven't seen Barbara in a couple of years. She and I went to a convention together about 3 years ago after Martin's death. And it was great to see her. She's a beautiful woman, always has been. Funny story about Barbara was, when I got into the show, they were already rehearsing the show and shooting some of the early scenes and getting prepared for the pilot episode in 1973. And I only ever saw Barbara in makeup. And as you know, she had a very pale skin. She said, well, there wouldn't be any sun on the moon. And she doesn't like going out in the sun. She doesn't want to have a suntan. On the other hand, I, rather stupidly in life, living in Australia, I was always on a surfboard. And as a consequence, I've got sunspots all over me. I've had 5 melanomas, but I'm still here. Anyway, Barbara was, she'd come in, and she'd always come in with a big hat on and dark glasses and a scarf around her neck. This is at 6 o'clock, because we used to get to the studio at 6 o'clock in the morning. Martin and Barbara would be driven in their Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud to the studio from their luxury apartment in Mayfair, London, and they would come out to Pinewood Studios. I would come out. I had a 240Z in those days. I didn't have it when the series started, but once I started making some money on the show, I bought the next best thing. I bought a Datsun 240Z back in 1973, and that was my Eagle then. Oh wow, that was a fabulous car. But I had to park like everybody else did in the big parking lot outside Pinewood Studios. And in England, where we shot Space 1999, for those of you that don't know where it was shot. And that's, of course, Pinewood is one of the greatest studios on the planet. They shot the Star Wars movie there. In fact, I met George Lucas there whilst he was shooting it. And they shot so many great, wonderful films. James Caan came to shoot Rollerball while we were there. And I had been shooting a movie called Submarine X1 with James Caan 10 years earlier. So we reunited at Pinewood Studios. But being in a place like that, it's huge. It's about a 1.5 mile square, maybe bigger. I'm not quite sure. I think there's like 15 big studios there, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. We were on L and M, and I think we're, well, however many that is, that's up around 15 or 20. It was a long walk. When you came in, I had to park the car and walk about 1/2 mile to get to L&M Studios. And Martin and Barbara didn't. They were brought in their Rolls Royce. And one day it was raining. And as I say, any time I ever saw Barbara without any makeup on was when she would scurry in with the big hat on and the dark glasses at 6 o'clock in the morning and go straight into her dressing room. And then the makeup department would go and make her up. And so I was used to seeing this very white porcelain who was Dr. Helena Russell. So the Rolls Royce goes past me, and it's raining, and I'm scurrying along trying to get to the L&M before I get completely drowned. And it stops, and Martin winds down the window of the Rolls and says, "Hop in, Nick." You know, they passed me before in sunshine, and it was never a question. But it was raining, and suddenly he went, "Oh, there's Nick in the rain." So they sat me in the car, and I got in, and I sat between Martin and Barbara, and she was with the hat on and everything. She didn't even look at me, and I thought, is this some vagrant he's got in the car, or is this Barbara? And I said, "Is that you, Barbara?" And she looked up at me, and she didn't have her sunglasses on. And for the first time, I saw her in her natural complexion. She has olive skin. She has a beautiful complexion. She's got that wonderful kind of thing that a lot of European women have, where they don't have to wear makeup because they've got these very dark eyelids. And so that looks very smoldering. And that's how Barbara was. She was gorgeous. And I said, "You are beautiful." She said, "Oh, don't look at me. Don't look at me, Nick Tate." And I said, "What are you talking about, Barbara? You are beautiful." Yeah, I shouldn't have been stunned. I mean, but I'd only ever seen her with white makeup on, you know? But she was right, you know, she wouldn't have had a suntan on the moon. And the way my character, who was always suntanned, I think there's a couple of scenes where you actually see me in a solarium, because we had solariums on the moon. And so Alan Carter would have burned himself into a crisp and died of skin cancer. Not your problem, Jeffrey. It wouldn't happen to you.
No, not a problem. Not a problem.
I do want to make mention, you know, you have the son of the series creator, Jerry Anderson, his son, Jamie Anderson, that's a part of it. What's it like talking to Jamie, who essentially grew up in the shadow of Space 1999, and his take from being the son of the creator versus having been there as a first person account?
Jamie is a wonderful guy. I've really enjoyed my interactions with him. He smart, quick thinker. He has a lot of respect for his father's legacy. He's creating, if you look at what Anderson Entertainment's doing, they're creating some really amazing high quality content. And I really feel like he's carrying on, you know, the mantle of what his father created. I think he's doing a tremendous job, and it's been a lot of fun interacting with him. And you know what I like about Jamie is he's also a fan of his father's work, and he has a real feeling and respect for it, right? So it's not like he's just milking it. You know, he's actually a believer, and he's an evangelizer, and he's creating great stuff. So it's been really wonderful interacting with him and having his blessing for this project.
Because I have a couple of friends that are comic book artists, and their kids looked at him and was like, "Dad just draws all day," not realizing that they were working on like either Batman or Spider-Man or Image comic or whatever.
Well, I mean, his dad, I mean, I think he especially like the some of the Marionation stuff and things like that. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff, you know. Jamie's, you can see his collections of all the stuff. It's really cool, you know. So he, like I said, he's also a fan, and he gets it, and he's keeping the torch, you know, lit.
Yeah, he wasn't around when we were shooting. I mean, he was a baby, I think, you know, he wasn't around. I didn't have anything. I didn't see him. I didn't meet him for years later. And of course, I've met him several times now, and he's a lovely guy, like you say. And yes, he is deeply into recreating. I think there's something coming up that I'm going to be seeing him. He'll be in England, won't he? When we when I meet you over there,
he should be in England. So yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. The funny part about it is, you know, in terms of people that were involved, my dad worked with Sylvia and Jerry Anderson on Thunderbirds. My father was one of the ancillary characters in Thunderbirds voices. He didn't play any of the sons or the father in Thunderbirds, but my father was all the other guys, because he used to be a master of voices, my dad. Anyway, what are you doing over there? And he was playing all these different crazy cartoon voices. And Sylvia liked him a lot. So when I was brought in to audition for Space 1999, I hadn't realized that Sylvia Anderson was Lady Penelope in Thunderbirds. She was an actress, and she played the voice of Lady Penelope. And so when she met me, she said, "You're Johnny Tate's son." And I went, "You know my dad?" She said, "Yeah, he was in Thunderbirds with us. Wasn't he, Jerry?" And Jerry goes, "Yeah, yeah." You know, Jerry was funny like that. He didn't like actors. He's not an actor's person.
You know what?
What?
Barbara told me some interesting stories last week when I had lunch with her, actually. So it's kind of, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You're not going to reveal stories, are you?
I'm not going to reveal it. No, I can't. I'm just going to say, I know what you're talking about.
These are documentary DVD and Blu-ray bonus features.
Yeah, there you go.
That Jeffrey's going to hold on to.
Yeah.
Nick, you're about to become a a grandfather again. Congratulations. What would you like your grandchildren in 10 years from now, when the newest one will be old enough to have some cognizant memories of you in the series, to get from the documentary? Like, what would you want the third generation to sit there and see? Okay, this is what was a part of my life and the legacy that they get to carry on.
Well, if my grandson, who would be my daughter's child, she, as I say, she's about to have the baby in about 4 to 3 weeks' time. We're not really sure. It's going to be in November sometime. He would be we already know she's a little girl. I already have a grandson who's 11, and I have a granddaughter who's 8. And no, she just turned 9. Neither of them have seen one frame of Space 1999, because my son, he seems to be rather unaffected by, even though he was an actor himself, by all of that. And he says, "I don't want my kids to be scared," so he won't let them see it. I don't know when he's going to let them see it. And my daughter perhaps will have her child look at Space 1999 sooner and then become a fan of the show. It's, I can't say I'm disappointed. It doesn't matter. Well, I love the kids for who they are.
If you think about it, Nick, it does have a pretty heavy, there's some scary episodes of that show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really didn't. I have to tell you, so being a child, seeing some of those episodes, there were a couple traumatic. I don't know if I was ready for some of that stuff. Watch it.
Well, Alien, the movie Alien was exactly the same story, or similar, based on Dragon's Domain, where the ship and kills everybody, and it was terrifying.
Yes, yeah, very, very terrifying. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about doing a special part of the Blu-ray that's just a little mini documentary about the trauma caused by Dragon's Domain on a whole generation of kids. So yeah, there's I hear two things. RC, when I talk to people like, "Hey, you ever heard of Space 1999?" People are like, "Oh yeah, that's that show with that really cool ship." And then they'll go, "Did you ever see that episode with that monster that looked kind of like a car wash that would suck people in?" And I mean, it's almost universal. People were terrified and traumatized by that episode. So yeah, but I think it's great. What a great episode.
They come out as charcoal, then they didn't come out as car wash.
They didn't come out looking like a car wash, no. But my goodness, yeah.
The burnt toast is what they look like.
Yes, oof. Yeah,
horrific.
Horrific. So,
gentlemen, unfortunately, we are going to have to cut this episode or this interview short, because I know you have a couple more things going on. I could talk to you all day about Space 1999 and the documentary that's being filmed, The Eagle Has Landed. Where could we find not only both of you on social media, but also the Kickstarter if we want to contribute to the documentary The Eagle Has Landed?
The best place to, I would say, there's obviously Kickstarter.com is, you can type in a search for The Eagle Has Landed, but there's a dedicated website we've created called eagledocumentary.com, which is it's a really cool site where you can get to know the project. You can see who's in it. You can see what we intend to do with it. I've even created a section on that website where fans can send in their stories, and we've included photos and little short stories from people all around the world there. And then there's direct links on eagledocumentary.com to take you to the Kickstarter. So, and then I'm on Future site, and then at Real Future Dude on Instagram and Facebook and X. Yep.
Fantastic. And Nick, if we want to connect with you, how would we be able to find you, sir?
Well, I do have a website. It's called nicktate.com. And you can see lots of stuff on there, and you can leave messages for me. Todd Morton is a man that helps me a great deal. He's a fabulous eagle model maker himself, and runs a lot of this fandom based around model making. He can be contacted. Maybe I've got Todd's email address. I can tell you what that is, because he's the person that I would prefer to look after this for me. I don't want to handle this kind of stuff myself. Sometimes I used to.
I've got it. You want it? People could reach out to 1999propsandships.com.
There you go.
1999propsandships.com. That'd be the way to reach Todd Morton. So fabulous guy. He could pass
along messages.
Yep.
Todd's a wonderful human being. Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you have it. Thank you so much, man.
No, thank you so much. Nick Tate, has been a great pleasure meeting you, and we'll talk about rugby a little more if we get together out here in Southern California. Jeffrey, are you out here as well, or are you somewhere else?
I'm based in Minneapolis, St. Paul, but I'm out there all the time. So
next time you come out here, you can listen to me and Nick opine about rugby and get lost in the conversation, but we will be definitely chatting. Thank you so much for your time again. The documentary about Space 1999, The Eagle Has Landed. It is available on Kickstarter to support up until October 12th. Gentlemen, congratulations. And please, I would love it if you'd have me out for the premiere when you do so in Southern California.
One way or another. So we're making this movie one way or another. So it's all good.